Danny Miller had never wanted to be special. He was 26 years old, worked at a car repair shop in Ohio, and had saved money for 3 years just to afford a ticket on the cheapest interstellar cruise he could find. The Wandering Star was not a fancy ship. The food was average, the rooms were small, and most of the other passengers were either retired couples or college students looking for adventure. Danny fit somewhere in the middle. He just wanted to see the stars. The cruise had been going well for 2 weeks. They had visited 3 different planets, taken photos of a nebula, and Danny had eaten more buffet food than he thought possible. He spent most of his time alone, sitting near the observation windows and watching space drift by. It was peaceful. It was exactly what he needed after a difficult year back home. On the 15th day of the cruise, everything changed. Danny was eating breakfast in the ship's dining hall when the captain's voice came over the speakers. Captain Linda Morrison was a serious woman in her 50s who rarely addressed the passengers directly. When she spoke, people listened. "Attention all passengers and crew," she said. "We have detected an unknown object approximately 200 kilometers from our current position. Initial scans indicate it is a vessel of non-human origin. We are altering course to investigate. Please remain calm and stay in the common areas until further notice." The dining hall erupted into excited chatter. Danny put down his fork and stared out the nearest window. An alien ship. A real alien ship. Humanity had encountered other species in the galaxy over the past century, but finding an unknown vessel in deep space was rare. Most alien civilizations kept to themselves, and their ships were well documented. This was something different. Danny made his way to the main observation deck along with dozens of other passengers. The crowd pressed against the windows, everyone trying to get a better look. At first, there was nothing to see except the familiar darkness of space dotted with distant stars. Then someone pointed and gasped. The alien ship emerged from the darkness like a shadow given form. It was massive, far larger than the Wandering Star. Danny guessed it was at least 3 kilometers long, maybe more. The hull was made of some kind of dark crystal that seemed to swallow light rather than reflect it. There were no visible windows, no markings, no signs of life. It simply drifted there, silent and ancient. "It is beautiful," whispered a woman standing next to Danny. He nodded, without looking away. Captain Morrison's voice returned to the speakers. "Our scans indicate the vessel has been adrift for approximately 2,000 years. There are no life signs aboard and no active power signatures. We have contacted the Colonial Authority and they are sending a research team. In the meantime, we have been authorized to conduct a preliminary survey." 2,000 years. Danny tried to wrap his mind around that number. 2,000 years ago, humans had still been building with stone and fighting with swords. This ship had been floating through space before humanity even knew the stars were other suns. The next few hours were a blur of activity. The Wandering Star moved closer to the alien vessel, keeping a safe distance while the crew launched drones to scan the exterior. Danny watched the footage on the observation deck's main screen, along with the other passengers. The ship was covered in strange patterns that might have been writing, or decoration, or something else entirely. There were what looked like docking ports along one side, sealed shut for millennia. By evening, the cruise company's lawyers had finished their discussions with the Colonial Authority. A supervised expedition would be allowed, with passengers given the opportunity to participate. Danny almost laughed when he heard the announcement. What kind of insurance covered being eaten by an alien? The selection process was simple. Anyone who wanted to join the expedition put their name in a digital lottery. Out of 143 volunteers, 12 would be chosen. Danny entered his name without really expecting anything. He had never won anything in his life. The next morning, his name was on the list. Danny stood in the shuttle bay with 11 other passengers and a team of scientists and security officers. Dr. Carol Hughes was in charge of the expedition. She was a small woman with gray hair and bright eyes that seemed to see everything at once. She had spent 30 years studying alien artifacts, and she could barely contain her excitement. "Listen carefully," she said to the group. "We do not know what we will find over there. The ship appears to be completely dead, but that does not mean it is safe. Stay with your assigned guide at all times. Do not touch anything unless you are told it is okay. Do not wander off. If you see something strange, report it immediately. Are we clear? Everyone nodded. Danny's heart was beating so fast he thought it might burst out of his chest. The shuttle ride took only a few minutes. Danny watched through the small window as the alien ship grew larger and larger until it filled his entire view. Up close, the crystalline hull was even more impressive. He could see layers within the material, like frozen waves in a dark ocean. The shuttle docked with a soft thump. There was a hiss of air as the seals connected. Dr. Hughes checked her equipment one last time and then opened the door. The corridor beyond was dark until they stepped inside. Then soft blue lights flickered to life along the walls, reacting to their presence. Someone in the group made a surprised sound. Dr. Hughes held up her hand for silence. Motion-activated lighting, she said quietly. Interesting. The ship may have some residual power after all. They moved forward slowly, their footsteps echoing in the silence. The corridor was tall and curved, made from the same dark crystal as the exterior. The walls were smooth and cool to the touch. Danny kept his hands at his sides, remembering the rules. The deeper they went, the more incredible the ship became. They passed chambers filled with strange devices, rooms with furniture built for bodies that were clearly not human, and walls covered in that same mysterious writing. Everything was perfectly preserved, as if the original crew had simply stepped out and never returned. Dr. Hughes documented everything with her scanner, her voice a constant whisper of notes and observations. The security team swept each room before allowing the civilians to enter. Danny followed along in a daze, unable to believe that any of this was real. After 2 hours of exploration, they reached what Dr. Hughes believed was the command center. It was a massive circular room with a raised platform in the middle. Strange consoles lined the walls, dark and silent. Above the platform, dormant projectors hung from the ceiling like sleeping insects. "This is it," Dr. Hughes breathed. "This is where they controlled the ship." Danny stood at the edge of the room and looked around. Somewhere in this vessel, an entire crew had lived and worked and eventually disappeared. 2,000 years of silence. 2,000 years of waiting. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a cherry lollipop. It was a habit from childhood, something that calmed his nerves. He unwrapped it, put it in his mouth, and wondered what secrets this ancient ship still held. He had no idea that he was about to find out. 3 days passed aboard the alien vessel. The expedition team had set up a temporary base camp in one of the larger chambers, bringing in equipment, supplies, and more scientists from the wandering star. Danny had been allowed to stay, mostly because he kept out of the way and followed orders without complaint. The ship, which the team had nicknamed the Sleeper, refused to wake up. Dr. Carol Hughes and her colleagues tried everything they could think of. They brought portable generators and attempted to feed power into the crystalline conduits. Nothing happened. They analyzed the ship's systems and tried to find an activation sequence. The consoles remained dark. They even tried speaking to the ship, hoping that some kind of voice recognition system might respond. Silence. Kevin Palmer, a younger scientist with messy brown hair and tired eyes, threw his tablet onto a table in frustration. "It makes no sense," he said. "The motion sensors work, the lights work. Something is keeping basic functions running. But we cannot access the main systems no matter what we do." Dr. Hughes looked up from her own work. "The power source must require a specific catalyst," she said. "Something we have not identified yet." "We have tried every energy type known to modern science," Kevin replied. "Electric, nuclear, solar, antimatter. The ship does not respond to any of them. Then it responds to something we do not know about yet." Danny listened to these conversations from his spot near the wall. He had learned a lot over the past 3 days, mostly by keeping quiet and paying attention. The Sleeper was far more advanced than anything humanity had ever built. Its technology operated on principles that even the smartest scientists could not understand. And yet here they were, stumped by an on switch. On the 4th day, Danny found himself alone in the command center. The other tourists had returned to the wandering star, bored by the lack of progress and uncomfortable sleeping on alien floors. The scientists were busy in other parts of the ship, running tests and collecting samples. The security team had determined that the sleeper posed no threat and had reduced their presence to a few guards at the main entrance. Danny sat on the edge of the central platform, his legs dangling over the side. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of the motion-activated lights. He looked up at the dormant projectors above him and tried to imagine what they might have displayed when the ship was alive. Star maps, maybe. Or images of the crew's homeworld. Or something completely beyond human imagination. He pulled a lollipop from his pocket. Cherry flavor, his favorite. He had brought a whole bag of them on the cruise, a small comfort from home. His mother used to give them to him when he was scared as a child. The habit had stuck. He unwrapped the candy and put it in his mouth. The familiar sweet taste helped him relax. He leaned back on one hand and, without thinking, tapped the wooden stick against the console behind him. The ship woke up. Danny felt it before he saw it. A vibration ran through the floor, through the walls, through the air itself. The dark crystal around him began to glow with a soft blue light that spread outward like ripples in water. Consoles that had been dead for 2,000 years flickered and hummed. The projectors above the platform stirred and rotated, orienting themselves toward some invisible point. Danny froze with the lollipop stick still touching the console. His heart stopped. His breath caught in his throat. He was afraid to move, afraid that any action might break whatever was happening. Footsteps pounded in the corridor. Dr. Hughes burst into the command center with Kevin right behind her. They both stopped at the entrance, staring at the awakening ship with wide eyes. "What did you do?" Dr. Hughes whispered. "I do not know," Danny said. His voice came out higher than he intended. "I just touched it with my lollipop stick." Kevin was already pulling out his scanner, running it over Danny and the console and everything in between. The readings made his face go pale. "Carol," he said slowly, "you need to see this." Dr. Hughes crossed the room in quick steps and looked at the scanner's display. Danny watched her expression change from confusion to disbelief, to something that looked almost like wonder. "That is impossible," she said. "What?" Danny asked. "What is impossible? What did I do?" Dr. Hughes looked at him, then at the lollipop in his mouth, then at the wooden stick in his hand. "The ship's power system," she said. "It does not run on electricity or nuclear energy or anything we tried. It runs on organic carbon compounds." Danny blinked. "What does that mean?" "It means," Kevin said, "that the ship was waiting for someone to touch it with processed wood." The command center continued to come alive around them. More lights activated, more systems hummed to life. The projectors above the platform began to glow, preparing to display something that had not been seen in 2 millennia. Danny looked at the lollipop stick in his hand. It was just a piece of birch wood, the same kind used in popsicle sticks and coffee stirrers across Earth. There was nothing special about it, and yet somehow, it had been exactly what the sleeper needed. 2,000 years, Dr. Hughes said softly. She was not talking to anyone in particular. This ship has been waiting for 2,000 years. Every civilization that might have found it, every species that might have boarded it, and none of them had the right catalyst. None of them used wood. "Why wood?" Danny asked. "I do not know," Dr. Hughes admitted, "but I intend to find out." A new sound filled the room, something like music but not quite. The projectors activated fully, and a figure appeared in the air above the platform. It was humanoid but clearly not human, with elongated limbs and a face that had no mouth. Its body glowed with the same blue light as the ship's walls. The figure spoke. The language was beautiful and strange, full of sounds that Danny had never heard before. It went on for several seconds, then stopped and seemed to wait. "It is trying to communicate," Kevin said. "Some kind of artificial intelligence, maybe." The figure spoke again, this time in a different language. Then another. Then another. It cycled through dozens of languages, none of which anyone recognized. Finally, it paused and made a gesture that might have been frustration or curiosity. Then it spoke in English. "Communication protocol adapted," it said. "Language pattern recognized from recent audio samples. I am the keeper. I maintain this vessel. You have awakened me after a long silence. Danny's lollipop fell out of his mouth and hit the floor. He did not notice. Welcome, the keeper said, to the Valorian ship Endless Dream. I have been waiting for you. The keeper floated above the platform like a ghost made of light. Its form shifted slightly as it observed the three humans in the command center, as if it was studying them as much as they were studying it. Dr. Carol Hughes was the first to find her voice. She stepped forward carefully, her hands raised in what she hoped was a peaceful gesture. I am Dr. Carol Hughes, she said. We are humans, from a planet called Earth. We found your ship drifting in space. We did not mean to intrude. You are not intruding, the keeper replied. Its voice was calm and musical, with no trace of hostility. This vessel was left here to be found. You have simply taken longer than expected. Kevin Palmer moved closer to the platform, his scanner still running. What do you mean, left here to be found? Who left it? Where are the original crew? The keeper's form flickered briefly, and Danny thought he saw something like sadness pass across its featureless face. The Valorian built this ship, it said. They built many ships like it and placed them throughout the galaxy. They hoped that other species would find them after they were gone. Gone where? Dr. Hughes asked. Gone forever, the keeper said. The Valorian no longer exist. They perished in a catastrophe that swept across their civilization 2,047 standard cycles ago. Only their ships remain, and the knowledge stored within them. The room fell silent. Danny stood frozen near the console where everything had started. He was just a car mechanic from Ohio. He should not be here, listening to an ancient artificial intelligence talk about the extinction of an alien species. None of this felt real. Dr. Hughes recovered first. I am sorry, she said. That is a terrible loss. But I do not understand. You said the ship was meant to be found. We have been trying to activate it for days without success. Why did it only respond now? The keeper turned its attention to Danny. Its glowing eyes, if they could be called that, seemed to look right through him. The activation requires a specific catalyst, it said. Organic carbon in a particular molecular arrangement. The Valorian designed their ships this way as a test. A test? Kevin asked. Yes. The Valorian believed that only certain species were worthy of receiving their knowledge. Species that maintained a connection to their biological origins. Species that valued organic life and natural materials. Species that had not abandoned their roots in pursuit of pure technology. Dr. Hughes looked at Danny, then at the lollipop stick still in his hand. Understanding dawned on her face. The wood, she said. Processed cellulose from trees. That is why none of our advanced technology worked. You needed something simple, something organic. Correct, the keeper said. Many civilizations have found Valorian ships over the centuries. All of them failed to activate the vessels. Their tools were too synthetic. Their materials were too artificial. They had left organic compounds behind. But humans still use wood, Danny said. His voice came out as a croak. He cleared his throat and tried again. We still have trees. We still make things out of them. Yes, the keeper agreed. You are the first species to arrive with the correct catalyst. A simple wooden implement carried by a single individual. The Valorian would have appreciated the poetry of it. Kevin laughed, though it sounded more like disbelief than humor. 2,000 years. Entire civilizations have come and gone, and all it took was a guy with a lollipop. Not just any wooden object would work, the keeper clarified. The processing method matters. The molecular structure must match certain parameters. The item you call a lollipop stick happens to meet those requirements precisely. Danny stared at the stick in his hand. It was just a piece of birch, the same kind that came in every bag of candy he had ever bought. His mother used to tell him not to chew on them. If only she could see him now. What happens next? Dr. Hughes asked. What knowledge did the Valorian leave behind? The keeper made a gesture, and the projectors filled the room with images. Star maps appeared in the air, showing regions of space that humans had never explored. Technical diagrams displayed technologies that looked like magic. And somewhere in the mix, Danny saw images of the Valorian themselves. They were tall and graceful, with silver skin, and eyes that reflected light like mirrors. They looked peaceful. They looked wise. The Valorian accumulated knowledge for over 100,000 years, the keeper said. They mapped the galaxy. They developed technologies beyond your current understanding. They solved problems that plague younger species. All of this is stored within this vessel, and within the other vessels scattered across the stars. Other vessels? Kevin asked sharply. There are more ships like this one? 47 vessels were deployed before the end, the keeper confirmed. Each one contains different portions of Valorian knowledge. Each one requires the same organic catalyst to activate. The locations of all vessels are stored in my database. Dr. Hughes sat down heavily on the edge of the platform. She looked overwhelmed, which was understandable. They had just been handed a treasure map to the greatest collection of knowledge in the galaxy. Why us? She asked quietly. Why would the Valorian give all of this to strangers? The keeper was silent for a moment before answering. The Valorian believed in continuity, it said. They knew their time was ending, but they did not want their achievements to die with them. They searched for a way to pass on their legacy to worthy successors. Species that still valued the simple things. Species that had not lost their connection to the living universe. And we qualified, Danny said, because we still eat candy and use wooden sticks. Because you remember where you came from, the keeper corrected. Because you carry pieces of your homeworld with you into the stars. The Valorian would have called you a promising species. Danny was not sure what to say to that. He had never thought of himself as promising. He had barely graduated high school. He fixed cars for a living. And yet, here he was, standing in an ancient alien ship, being told that humanity had passed some cosmic test. Dr. Hughes stood up again, her scientific mind already racing ahead to the implications. We need to contact the colonial authority, she said. We need to tell them what we have found. This changes everything. Yes, the keeper agreed. Your species stands at a threshold. What you do with this knowledge will determine your path forward. Choose wisely. Danny looked at the star maps floating in the air around him. 46 more ships were out there, waiting to be found. 46 more libraries of ancient knowledge, sealed behind locks that only humanity could open, all because they had never stopped making things out of wood. He put the lollipop stick in his pocket. He had a feeling he was going to need more of them. The news spread faster than anyone expected. Within hours of Dr. Hughes sending her report to the colonial authority, the story had leaked to the media. Within days, Danny Miller's face was on every screen in human space. The headlines wrote themselves. Tourist awakens ancient alien ship with candy. Lollipop stick unlocks. 2,000-year-old mystery. Ohio man changes history. Danny hated all of it. He had never wanted to be famous. He just wanted to go home, return to his job at the repair shop, and forget that any of this had ever happened. But the universe had other plans. The colonial authority wanted him to stay near the sleeper as a consultant. The scientists wanted to study him, convinced that there might be something special about his biology or his genetic makeup. The media wanted interviews, photographs, exclusive access to the man they were calling the Lollipop Pioneer. 1 month after the awakening, Danny sat in a small conference room aboard the Colonial Authority research vessel Hope. Across from him sat Katie Brooks, a journalist from Earth who had traveled all the way to the Kepler expanse to meet him. She was about his age, with short dark hair and sharp brown eyes that seemed to notice everything. "You look tired," she said. "I am tired," Danny admitted. "I have not had a full night of sleep since this started. Everyone wants something from me. I do not know how to give them what they want." Katie nodded sympathetically. "I can imagine. One day you are a regular tourist, the next day you are the most famous person in the galaxy. That is a lot to handle." "I did not do anything special," Danny said. "I just ate a lollipop at the right time. Anyone could have done it." "But they did not," Katie pointed out. "You did, and that matters, whether you like it or not." Danny sighed and leaned back in his chair. Through the window behind him, he could see the sleeper floating in space, now surrounded by dozens of ships. Research vessels, military escorts, diplomatic cruisers from a dozen different human colonies. The site had become the busiest location in the sector. "What do you want to know?" he asked. Katie pulled out a recording device and set it on the table between them. "Everything," she said. "Start from the beginning." Danny told her the story. The budget cruise, the discovery, the lottery, the exploration of the ship, and the failed attempts to activate it. The moment when his lollipop stick had touched the console and changed everything. Katie listened without interrupting, her eyes never leaving his face. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "What about the Keeper?" she finally asked. "What has it told you about the Valorian?" "A lot," Danny said. "They were one of the oldest species in the galaxy. They had been traveling between stars for longer than humans have existed as a species. They built incredible things and learned incredible secrets. And then something happened. Something that wiped them out completely." "Do you know what?" Danny shook his head. "The Keeper does not know the details. It was activated after the catastrophe had already begun. By the time its ship launched, most of the Valorian were already gone. All the Keeper knows is that it happened quickly. One moment they were a thriving civilization. The next moment, they were extinct." Katie frowned. "That is terrifying." "Yes," Danny agreed. "But the Keeper says the Valorians saw it coming. They knew they could not stop it, so they focused on preserving what they had built. They scattered their ships across the galaxy like seeds, hoping that someday someone would find them and carry on their legacy. And that someone turned out to be us. That someone turned out to be humans with wooden lollipop sticks." Danny laughed softly, though there was no real humor in it. "The Keeper says other species have found Valorian ships before, lots of them actually, but none of them could activate the systems. Their technology was too advanced, too synthetic. They had stopped using organic materials centuries ago." Katie leaned forward. "But humans still use wood." "Humans still use wood," Danny confirmed. "We still have paper books and cotton clothes and wooden furniture. We still grow trees and make things out of them. The Keeper says that makes us unique. Most species abandon those materials as they develop. We never did." "Why not?" Danny thought about the question. "I do not know," he said honestly. "Maybe we just like the way wood feels. Maybe we are sentimental. Maybe we are too stubborn to change. Whatever the reason, it turns out to be the thing that qualifies us to receive the Valorian inheritance." The conference room door opened, and a tall man in a military uniform entered. Admiral George Cooper was in charge of the colonial authorities' presence at the site. He was a stern man with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. "Mr. Miller," he said, "the diplomatic council is ready for you." Danny groaned. "Another meeting?" "The alien ambassadors have arrived," Admiral Cooper explained. "They want to meet the human who activated the Valorian ship. Several of them are quite eager to discuss the situation." Katie raised an eyebrow. "Alien ambassadors? Which species?" "All of them," the Admiral said. "The Korvathi, the Mindari, the Pale Collective, the Singing Spheres. Every major civilization in our sector has sent representatives. They have all encountered Valorian ships at some point in their history. None of them ever figured out how to turn them on." Danny stood up slowly. He had met aliens before, briefly, during the early days of humanity's expansion into space. But he had never been the center of their attention. He had never been someone they specifically wanted to talk to. "What do they want?" he asked. "They want to understand," Admiral Cooper said. "They want to know how a species as young as humanity solved a puzzle that stumped them for centuries. Some of them are impressed, some of them are jealous. A few of them might even be angry." "Great," Danny muttered. "This just keeps getting better." Katie stood as well and grabbed her recording device. "Mind if I tag along?" she asked the Admiral. "This is the biggest story in human history. I would hate to miss it." Admiral Cooper looked at Danny, who shrugged. "Fine with me," Danny said. "At least I will have someone to talk to who does not want something from me." Katie smiled. "I want a good story. Does that count?" "That is different," Danny decided. "That I can understand." They left the conference room together and walked toward the diplomatic section of the ship. Danny's stomach churned with nervousness. Somewhere ahead, representatives from civilizations far older and more powerful than humanity were waiting to meet him, all because he had brought snacks on a cruise. The universe, Danny decided, had a very strange sense of humor. 3 years had passed since Danny Miller touched his lollipop stick to an alien console and changed the course of human history. In that time, humanity had found and activated 14 more Valorian ships. Each discovery brought new knowledge, new technology, and new opportunities. Faster engines that could cross the galaxy in months instead of years. Medical techniques that could cure diseases once thought incurable. Energy systems that produced clean power with almost no cost. The Valorian inheritance was transforming human civilization piece by piece. Danny had watched it all happen from a distance. After the first year of interviews and meetings and diplomatic events, he had finally managed to escape the spotlight. He had returned to Earth, bought a small house in a quiet town, and opened a candy shop. It was not the life anyone expected for the most famous man in the galaxy, but it was the life he wanted. The shop was called Simple Pleasures, and it sold old-fashioned candy from a simpler time. Lollipops, of course, but also chocolate bars and gummy worms and hard candies in glass jars. Children loved it. Adults found comfort in it. Danny found peace behind the counter, handing out sweets and sharing stories with anyone who stopped by. Katie Brooks had stayed in his life. She had written a book about the sleeper discovery that became the best-selling publication in human history. A year after its release, she and Danny had gotten married in a small ceremony attended by close friends and family. She still worked as a journalist, traveling the galaxy to cover the ongoing story of humanity's expansion. But she always came home. On a warm afternoon in late summer, Danny was restocking the lollipop display when the bell above the door chimed. He looked up expecting a customer and instead found himself face to face with a floating holographic figure. "Hello, Danny," the keeper said. Danny nearly dropped the box he was holding. "How are you here?" he asked. "I thought you were installed on the research station." "I am," the keeper confirmed. "This is a remote projection. I wish to speak with you, and you have not visited the station in some time." Danny set down the box and leaned against the counter. "I did not think you would want to talk to me. You have plenty of scientists and engineers to keep you company." "Scientists and engineers are useful," the keeper agreed, "but they are not you. You are the one who woke me. That creates a connection that I value." Danny was not sure what to say to that. In the years since the awakening, he had tried not to think too much about his role in everything that had happened. He was just the lucky one, the right person in the right place at the right time. There was nothing special about him. "The other civilizations are still angry," the keeper continued. "Did you know that?" "I heard," Danny said. "They do not understand why humans can activate Valorian ships when they cannot. They have analyzed your lollipop sticks extensively. They have attempted to replicate the molecular structure with synthetic materials. They have even tried growing their own trees, though their worlds do not support Earth-type vegetation well. Nothing works." "Why not?" The keeper's form flickered in a way that Danny had learned to interpret as amusement. "Because they are trying too hard," it said. The Valorian designed their ships to respond to organic materials, yes. But the deeper truth is that they designed them to respond to a certain kind of spirit. A willingness to appreciate simple things. A connection to the natural world that persists even as technology advances. And humans have that spirit? Humans are the only species we have found that still packs snacks for a journey through the stars. The only species that brings wooden toys and cotton blankets and paper photographs to alien worlds. The only species that refuses to leave behind the small comforts of home. Danny thought about that. He thought about his mother giving him lollipops when he was scared. He thought about the tourists on the Wandering Star who had brought books and blankets and pictures of their families. He thought about Katie, who still kept a pressed flower from their wedding in her jacket pocket. "We are sentimental," he said. "You are connected," the keeper corrected. "You remember where you came from. You carry your past with you into the future." The Valorian believed that was the most important quality a species could have. The door chimed again, and Katie walked in carrying groceries. She stopped when she saw the keeper's projection and raised an eyebrow. "We have a visitor," she observed. "The keeper wanted to check in," Danny explained. Katie set down her bags and approached the projection. "Any particular reason?" "I wish to inform you that the 15th Valorian ship has been located," the keeper said. It is in a remote sector far from established shipping lanes. The expedition team departed yesterday. More knowledge? Danny asked. More responsibility, the keeper said. Each ship you find increases humanity's power and influence. Other civilizations are watching. Some with hope, some with fear, some with envy. How you handle this inheritance will determine your place in the galaxy for centuries to come. Danny exchanged a look with Katie. They had discussed this many times, usually late at night when the weight of everything felt heaviest. Humanity had been handed an incredible gift, but gifts always came with expectations. We will do our best, Danny said. That is all anyone can do. Yes, the keeper agreed. That is all the Valorian ever expected. They did not choose humanity because you were perfect. They chose you because you were genuine, because your species still finds joy in small things. Because a man on a budget cruise brought candy with him and accidentally changed the universe. Danny laughed despite himself. When you put it that way, it sounds ridiculous. Many important things sound ridiculous, the keeper said. That does not make them less important. The projection began to fade. I will let you return to your work, the keeper said. But I hope you will visit the station soon. There are still many things I would like to discuss with the human who carries lollipops in his pocket. And then it was gone. Katie moved to stand beside Danny, slipping her hand into his. Together they looked out the shop window at the quiet street beyond. Children were playing on the sidewalk. An old man walked his dog. A woman watered flowers in her garden. Normal life, continuing as it always had. Do you ever regret it? Katie asked. Being the one who started all of this? Danny considered the question. 3 years ago, he had been nobody special. Now his name was in history books. His face was recognized across the galaxy. His simple action had set in motion events that were reshaping civilization itself. No, he said finally. I do not regret it. I just hope we get it right. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a lollipop. Cherry flavor, same as always. He unwrapped it and put it in his mouth, enjoying the familiar sweetness. Somewhere out there, ancient ships were waiting to be found. Somewhere out there, the Valorian legacy was spreading across the stars. And somewhere in a small candy shop on Earth, the man who had started it all was exactly where he wanted to be. The universe had chosen humanity because they remembered how to enjoy the simple things. Danny intended to keep reminding them why that mattered. One lollipop at a time.